Hey everyone, my name is Sirhc, and today we're going to be checking out my custom resource pack. So this is just a tweaked vanilla resource pack, very similar to what a lot of people have been doing lately, kind of changing some textures in vanilla, making it their own. And this is my version of it. One thing I've been trying to do with my resource pack is I've been staying very close to vanilla so that if you build in this resource pack and then you look at it in vanilla or someone else sees your builds in vanilla, they're going to look very similar, or they're still going to look good. There isn't any crazy texture changes in here. Just a lot of color changes and some shading added. So let's start off. Actually, before we start off, there is two versions of the resource pack right now. There's a 1.12 version, which actually works in earlier versions of Minecraft as well. So 1.11, 1.10, 1.9, and so on. And then there's a 1.13 version. They made quite a few changes to resource packs in 1.13. So there is an updated version for that as well that we'll check out later. But anyways, let's get started here with the logs and the planks. So these, all I've done is added a little bit of shading to the edges of the logs, makes them a little bit more round, gives them some shape, a little bit of definition. I think it looks pretty good on the trees, and if you're using the logs in a build, pretty interesting. Also, the planks I've made some of the planks a little bit darker, some of them brighter, just to add a bit more variation and really just making these textures look a lot less flat. And over here we have some more wood textures. The oak door in vanilla is really orangey yellow. They have kind of a weird oak texture that they've been using for a while. And it's not very consistent because all of the other doors that they have in vanilla match their respective planks. The oak door is the only one that doesn't. So I've made it match the oak plank. I've edited the ladders a little bit too. I think they were just slightly off from the oak texture, so I made them match a little bit more. I've also removed one of the rungs, so instead of 4 rungs we now have 3. It sort of spaces them out a bit, makes the texture look a little bit less messy. Then we have the trapdoors. In vanilla, you only get an oak trapdoor before 1.13. In 1.12 and earlier, all we had are oak trapdoors. They were the same color as the oak door. And I wouldn't use those very often. I'm not a big fan of that texture. I'd rather have a spruce trapdoor. So I changed it to this texture. It's modeled after the spruce door. And I think this is just a lot more versatile. It's a lot better trapdoor texture, something that I would use a lot more often. Then we have the dark oak door. The only thing I've done here is I've changed the handle from a gold handle to a gray one, so it doesn't pop out as much. And then we have the chests. The chests, again, were kind of a yellowy orange color. Not a fan of that color, and also I really like darker browns. I'm a fan of the dark chocolatey browns. Dark oak is one of my favorite woods, so I've darkened the chests and made them a little bit more interesting. Added these little like corner ornaments, I guess, kind of made it a little bit more ornate, sort of reinforced, and I've just redone the chest textures like that. I've also overhauled all of the crops. In vanilla, the crops are super bright, super vibrant, and they're also all the same. So when they're in the first stage, you can't even tell what crop is which. So I've given them each their own color, and I brought up pictures of actual crops of the wheat, potatoes and carrots, beetroot, and I've tried to match the colors as best as I can. So we actually have a nice golden amber wheat color here. Potatoes and carrots I think look a lot more realistic. That's what I was kind of going for. And I've changed the items as well, so the seeds are now brown instead of green. The wheat color matches kind of the fully grown wheat there. Carrots and potatoes match what we have here a little bit better. And I've changed the baked potatoes to sort of coincide with the potato changes. Hay bales are a lot less saturated. In vanilla, they're just super bright yellow, way too bright. So I brought that down quite a bit. They're similar to the wheat texture, a little bit different because it's kind of like dead hay, dead straw. So it's supposed to look a little bit older, I suppose, a little bit darker. And then we have the pumpkin. The pumpkins grow with a face on them, and that never made sense at all. So I've made the regular pumpkin without a face, removed the face from it, so that makes a little bit more sense. That's another thing that's been fixed in 1.13. And you may have seen down on the bottom, this is my path block. Instead of the kind of yellowy, sort of dead grass looking path block that they have in vanilla, I've made it brown, made it a little bit more dirt-like the grass has been worn away and it's just the dirt ground left. It's definitely a lot better in my mind than the vanilla. This is something that I'm much more comfortable using than the yellow path blocks that they give you. Over here we have a bunch of random block texture changes. We got iron bars here. Now iron is an interesting texture because we have kind of two different iron colors. We have like the hoppers, the anvils, which are a darker color, and then we have like the iron doors and the trapdoors, which are kind of a white color. Iron bars and vanilla are sort of in between, and they're this really weird light gray color that I am not a fan of. So I decided to darken those, and I think that looks a lot better. We also have the Obsidian here. I have desaturated, taken a lot of the purple out. Still a little bit of the purple tint to it, but it's a lot more black. I think that looks a lot better and kind of fits again with other blocks more. I've carried that change over to the enchanting table. I've also changed the cloth on the enchantment table from a red cloth to a cyan cloth, and that's just a personal preference. I like cyan. That's kind of my favorite color, especially in this game. So just change that to kind of personalize it a bit. And I've made the book a little bit darker, again going with the darker browns. Of course, we have the Mossy Cobble and the Moss Stone. This is a change that a lot of people make because they don't match in vanilla, and they really should. So that's what I've done here. Over here we have the brick textures, brick and nether brick. I've added a little bit of variation to. Some of the bricks are slightly different color. I've also made the bricks more red than they are in vanilla. And to go with that, brick and granite actually go pretty well together. They match really well in vanilla. So I made the granite slightly more red so that it still matches with the brick and you can still use those in combination. Let's skip over here to the sand and the sandstones. They look pretty close to vanilla, but I've darkened them a bit and made them a bit more brown. I think I've made the sandstone slightly darker than the sand as well so that they don't quite match as perfectly as they do in vanilla. And I think that makes them look a lot less bright and washed out and gives the sandstone a little bit more of its own color, its own texture, kind of contrast slightly from the sand, pops out a bit more. And of course I've changed the cactus here, made it way less desaturated, this more earthy green color, which I think looks really nice. Then over here we got the end rod. The base I have taken out a lot of the purple, so it's more of a gray color and it fits with a lot more blocks. This was a pretty interesting texture. The sticky piston, in vanilla, it doesn't have the slime on the sides, and it's something that I never really realized until I saw some other people make this texture change. But yeah, when you had the sticky piston up against a block, you actually couldn't tell what kind of piston it was. So I adjusted the top, kind of spread out the slime a little bit so that it reached over the sides, and then added some slime to the side of the piston so that you can actually tell, it's a sticky piston when you're looking at the side. Now this might be kind of a controversial block. We got our glowstone here. It definitely doesn't look good in vanilla. I think a lot of people agree vanilla glowstone looks really, really odd and off. This is my version of it. Some people might not agree with it, but I think it looks pretty good, and it's something I've worked on quite a bit, and this is kind of the best I came up with. So the inspiration was the sea lantern. We have a bit of a border around the outside. It's a little bit darker, lighter on the inside, but I've made it a lot messier, a lot rougher. And I think it works. I think it looks pretty good. It does look a little strange when you have it in clumps in the nether, but it doesn't look too bad. And I think the trade-off, like actually using this in a build, works really well, I believe. So the trade-off for it maybe not looking quite as nice in the nether is definitely a good one. And then over here we have all of the colored beds, the dyed beds. Again, going with the dark brown theme we have going in this resource pack. I changed all the bed frames to this dark chocolatey brown. Matches more with the dark oak color rather than the oak color. I think that looks a lot better. Also, if you play with this resource pack pre 1.12, before we got these dyed beds, the default bed is the cyan color. It kind of goes along with the enchantment table, replacing the red cloth with the cyan, replacing the red bed with the cyan bed. And that, again, is just a personal preference. I like the cyan color more, so that's what I have done. And you've probably seen this guy popping up a bunch. So this is kind of an interesting change that I just made, and I'm still not entirely sure about it. But the purple shulker box we have right here, this is the only shulker box that doesn't match its color. It doesn't match like the bed, the concrete, the other purple items in the game. And that's because it shares a texture, as you can tell, with the actual shulker mob. And the shulker mobs are the same color as purple blocks, which are the blocks that they spawn around in the end. So it kind of leaves you with a weird conundrum. And it's in vanilla, the purple shulker box is actually this color. It's the purple color. I'm not a big fan of it. It looks really off, especially if you have the shulker boxes in all the different colors. So I decided to change it to purple, decided to make it match, and that means we have purple shulkers. Hi. We'll have to see how that actually works out. It's kind of weird. I haven't actually been to an end city to see these guys sitting around. And finally, there's a couple more things I want to check out before we head on over to the 1.13 snapshots. And these are the only two textures in this resource pack that I haven't altered myself or done myself. One of them is the water texture here, and then the other one is the Skybox. Both of these I got from a resource pack called Lively Default. I got those a while ago. The water I really love. It's a lighter blue. It's a lot more transparent, and it's got this slightly more interesting like surface texture that we have going on here. And then we have the Skybox, which is beautiful. It's got just amazing clouds. The sunset is really nice. We can actually go, if we do time set 13,000, I think. Yeah, look at that beautiful sunset. Some nice oranges, purples into the dark blue. Such a beautiful color. It is very nice. And I think the guy who made Lively Default made this texture, the water texture. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know where the Skybox came from. I've seen a lot of other resource packs have it, and when I tried to track down the origins, like people just basically kept grabbing it from other resource packs. So I kind of went down a long chain, and I have no idea where it came from. It must be pretty old though, and whoever made it, they did a beautiful job. Very awesome. The only downside is that you do need Optifine for it to work. So when we hop into the snapshots, we are going to lose our beautiful custom skies. And we are now in the latest 1.13 snapshot. We're in 17W50A. So there's a couple of changes here. One of them is 1.13 brings us trapdoors for all the different types of woods, which means we now have the spruce trapdoor by default. So this is the vanilla texture, and I've just left that alone. But that means I changed back the oak texture. And I did change the color to make it match the oak door that we have here and match with the oak planks a bit more. I've also edited the dark oak trapdoor texture to make it match the dark oak door a bit more. For some reason, they don't match in vanilla. They're slightly different colors, and like the highlights that they have are a lot more yellow rather than this kind of gray highlight that they have here. So I've altered those so that they match a bit more. Gives us a bit more consistency. Another change they brought in 1.13, a super nice change, is you can actually place chests next to each other now without them connecting. So if you just right click normally, they'll connect, but if you shift right click, they will not. Or if you place them facing a different direction, they won't connect. Or if you put a single chest next to a double chest, they will no longer connect, which is amazing. You no longer need trapdoors or trapped chests to make your compact storage rooms. Although it is a little bit hard to place the chest, you actually need to place it correctly. There, if you shift click on the chest, it connects them. If you shift click down here, you get separate ones. But that means that, like I said, we no longer need to use the trap chests with the regular chests. So I decided to change the trap chest to a lighter spruce color. And this just gives us more options when we're building. We can use a lighter chest if we want to. And it gives me a reason to use the trap chests. Whereas normally these aren't something that I would use other than for the compact storage, which we don't need them for anymore. And finally, 1.13 fixed the whole pumpkin face thing. Pumpkins now grow without a face. This is the default texture. And then you can actually carve a pumpkin. If you grab some shears and right click on it, it'll put a face on there and it'll give you some pumpkin seeds. So that's really awesome. That means my little texture change is no longer needed. So I removed that from my resource pack. And I think before we end it off here, let's switch over to vanilla textures so we can see a little bit of a comparison. So here we have the vanilla textures. The logs and the planks are looking really flat. The trapdoors and door do not match the oak. They're a little bit more yellow. The dark oak trapdoor and the dark oak door, I still don't understand what they were doing there. They don't match at all. The crops are super bright green and way too vibrant, and you can't tell, especially between these three, you can't tell what they are until they're to the final stage. Hay bales are super bright. Our mosses don't match. The bricks and granite are pretty dull. They still match together, but the brick is like a really kind of dull color. Glowstone is pretty ugly. Sand is super bright and kind of washed out. The cactus is way too green. And then we have our purple Shulker Box that doesn't match the other purple colors. So if you'd like to use this resource pack yourself, there will be links down in the description to the 1.12 and 1.13 versions. You can head down there and download it and check it out for yourself. But that's going to do it for today. Hope you've enjoyed, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye, folks.